Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to what should have been Wednesday's reflection, but alas, yesterday time got away with me and I never got to share the reflection. But this morning I'm going to read to you a beautiful passage from yesterday's Gospel, the story of the road to Emmaus. And I invite you just to listen, and even though you may have heard this many times, listen with a new heart, listen with a new mind as we begin this story today. Now, on that same day, two of them were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem. And they were talking with each other about all the things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them, but their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" And they stood there, still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these last few days?" And he asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in word and in deed before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and our elders handed him over to be condemned to death and to be crucified. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women from our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive." Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said, but they did not see him. Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" And then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near to the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at table with them, he took bread, blessed and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. And they said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" So that same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. And they were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened to them on the road, and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. What a wonderful, powerful piece of scripture that reminds us of that journey of the early disciples. There was a sense of loss, a sense of struggling to understand, why could this happen? This parable is one of those living parables, those stories that is continued through the centuries, and even today we can put it into the context of our own lives. It talks about a journey, it talks about a pilgrimage, a walk. It talks about walking with Jesus, even when they don't know it. And in this passage we get that sense that Jesus is walking always with his disciples. As a community and as a world, there's lots of questions going on in our hearts at this moment. There's lots of puzzles. There's lots of worry. And I think this is a very apt scripture for us to reflect upon. Because we're reminded in this scripture, because we are people of the resurrection, that Christ is walking beside us today. But note how in this story, Jesus makes himself known to them two ways. Obviously in the breaking of the bread, reminding us very much of Eucharist and how we share that together. But he also was made known to them through the scriptures. He told all the stories about himself from the First Testament, especially Isaiah, the other prophets. He gave them clarity as to where these stories were and how they fitted into his role as the Son of God. And so whilst we can't break bread together as much, if we follow this story, this image of the story, maybe we can find Christ more in the scriptures. To go back and read some of the powerful messages of Isaiah, Jeremiah, to read through the scriptures, the New Testament again, the letters of Paul or the Acts of the Apostles, particularly at this time. Every day this week, along with our gospel, it's the stories from the Acts of the Apostles. Read those stories and feel supported that Christ is walking with us. But there's also another challenge for us. Because as we walk along and we know that Christ is walking with us, and we feel that strength that comes into our hearts, the challenge is, do we then become Christ to others who are walking along the road and who are lost, confused, lonely? That's the challenge for us, to move from being the two disciples to being Christ, walking with those in need. May the Lord give you peace.